Welcome to the Young Turks, the No Bull Zone, and I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. All right, we're going to start with the most important news today. George Soros has launched a new think tank where he'd like to reinvent the field of economics. I guess to make it more liberal economics, less capitalist. The Hungarian-American-born billionaire has started what he calls the Institute of New Economic Thinking. And he says he wants to reinvent all of economics. Well, I guess if you don't like economics and it doesn't suit your purposes, you'd like to reinvent it, wouldn't you? And he says that it will fund fellowships and support research aiming to fix the flaw that he found in the system. Gee, I wonder where those funds will go. There's been a lot of Soros-funded groups before. We know who they are. We've showed them to you before. And I guess they're going to get a lot more money to reinvent economics now. We really appreciate your input into this, Mr. Soros. And here I'll give you a quote from George Soros, because we bring you the facts on this show. The ideologists in the free markets are still in command, and I think they'll be very difficult to remove because they have tenure. Now, all of a sudden, when George Soros doesn't like tenure, he'd like to destroy tenure and take out all the people who disagree. And I'm sorry if our free market principles offend your sense of liberalism, Mr. Soros. All right, that was story number one. Now, Pew poll showing that Fox News is in fact fair and balanced. They asked respondents, do you find Fox to be a conservative network, a liberal network, or neither? Yes, 47% said that they found Fox to be conservative, Fox does have some opinion shows, right? But that is less than 50% majority, and 14% say it's liberal. So that's fair to the folks at home, and 24% say neither. So now the media would like to pretend otherwise, the White House would like to pretend otherwise, but it is obvious from the American people, the folks at home, that they viewed Fox to be more fair and balanced than any other network. Look at this, 14% even believe it's liberal. Those are not our numbers, those are their numbers. All right, now we want to go to Dick Durbin. He wants to address unemployment and how it is a problem in the country, he claims, and that it is something the Republicans are not addressing enough. So let's listen to Senator Dick Durbin, the number 2 man in charge of the Senate, whine and cry. Clip number 10.
How can my colleagues on the Republican side hear stories like that if they are even listening to these unemployed people and refuse to help so they can come to the floor and debate their amendments? For goodness sakes, tomorrow's another day. There'll be another chance to give a speech and debate an amendment. Why wouldn't you let the unemployment compensation benefits go forward for people like those who have written to me? The unemployment rate in my state's 10.5%, and I think it's my duty to help these people with a safety net that will help them get by. While there are just 1 out of 6 applicants for every available job, and while they struggle to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads, we ought to be doing our part in the Senate. Apparently, yesterday, when we voted to go to the unemployment benefits, 13 Republican senators voted no against moving to the extension of unemployment benefits. And just in case some of those senators missed it, here are the unemployment rates in the states represented by the Republicans who voted against even debating an extension of unemployment insurance. Texas, 8.2%. Mississippi, 9.2%. Missouri, 9.5%. Alabama, 10.7%. Kentucky, 10.9%. South Carolina, 11.6%. I don't understand it. How could you represent a state with over 10% unemployment and vote against unemployment benefits for the people there who are searching for jobs? That, to me, does not represent family values. It doesn't represent what this Senate ought to be about, and for goodness sakes, it doesn't represent the kind of bipartisanship that was always behind voting for unemployment benefits. This Republican obstruction, when it comes to something this basic, is fundamentally unfair.
Well, Mr. Durbin says he doesn't understand it, and that seems to be fairly obvious. You see, the economy cannot recover if the government keeps meddling in it. And that's what you don't understand, Mr. Durbin. and you want to create your safety net, as you call it, but that is nothing but a government power grab, because you'd like to have more power, and that is why you do your nanny state. And I suppose that if you were in charge, you'd want to give unemployment forever, right? Why should anybody get a real job in America and be hardworking Americans when they could just feed off the government so that you and your party can get more and more powerful, Mr. Durbin? Isn't that correct? And whose fault is unemployment in the first place? You listed all those compelling numbers. Last I checked, the Democrats were in charge. President Obama has not addressed that. You have not addressed that in the Senate, and the Democrats in the House have not addressed that. Those unemployment numbers are directly the result of your nanny state, Mr. Durbin. And you want to do more government meddling so those numbers can go even higher. And see, gee, I wonder why we have such high unemployment when there are such high taxes and the good employers in this country cannot hire more people. That's our talking points for today. We'll be right back on the Young Turks. Back on the Young Turks, but not the Young Turks factor. Sierra, how did I do? How did I do?
It was all right. It was okay. I'll take it.
All right, what percentage of the audience do you think realized that it was my Halloween outfit?
Well, it had to be visually or you know.
He was missing the hand things. And
My dad's in the studio, and he thinks I was missing the hand gestures. More aggressive hand gestures? Okay, I got you. All right, so I'm going to take off my Halloween outfit. Now, Dave, our executive producer, has a standard Halloween outfit. It's a Walmart employee. He's got a Walmart apron. He brings it on. He's set, okay, and a name tag. Now, this is now becoming my standard Halloween outfit. I bring a tie, right? And then, but I can go one of two ways with the tie. I think 2 years ago, I was a straight news anchor, so I did everything down the middle. Well, the Republicans say this, but the Democrats say that. Democrats say this, but the Republicans say that. And this week, or this year, I went with the conservative way. So yes, for those of you listening and watching, I was messing around. In the last segment, I didn't mean a word of it. Now, let's do all of those stories the real way, okay? George Soros, I led with George Soros because that is not the top story. That's the top story that the conservatives would have led with. I mean, it's interesting that they spent $50 million on this program, and it's a great program if you ask me, but not the top story of the day. All right, so what's he actually doing? It is the Institute of New Economic Thinking, and he's saying, hey, look, we got a hole in the system here. George Soros made billions of dollars being a capitalist, and he knows about holes in the system, and he's taken advantage of them before to make a lot of money. But he's saying, look, part of the problem here is that it's what we talked about yesterday, what we've been talking about for quite a while, that shareholders are not represented, that the boards and the executives of the companies are not representing the real owners of the companies, and we've got a fundamental flaw in the economic system. Now, that is one of several different flaws, and he wants to spend $50 million to try to come up with a new and innovative way of thinking of fixing that flaw, a flaw that Alan Greenspan agrees with and said in congressional testimony, I was wrong for these 40 years, that it's a flaw I did not expect. So Soros is looking to fix that. Isn't it funny how different the stories can be depending on how you cover it, right? Now to the Fox poll that we did in the last segment. It's actually a Pew poll. It's a very legitimate study, but it's asking how do you view Fox News? And I'm amazed by this poll, man. 47% say yes, Fox News is conservative. They get it right. 24% say it's neither conservative nor liberal. I'm not surprised by that. You know, there's a lot of conservatives who say, no, it's fair and balanced, and that's the way it is, and it just balances out other liberal programs on television. So I'm not surprised some would say that. And in fact, probably there's a lot of people in the country who don't realize what Fox's agenda is at all. And so they think, well, I don't know, it's a news station like any other. But 14% think Fox News is liberal? I mean, it just goes to show you, man, it's 14% of the country that has no idea what's going on. Like, so when people say attack Barack Obama and they say, oh, you know what, he should have never picked that fight with Fox News Channel, everybody already knows they're conservative. No, that's what I'm talking about, taking control of a conversation. Not everybody knows. And I mean, that seems amazing to you if you're in the know and you listen to this program or you follow the news. But when a president says something or the White House says something, administration does something, then people pay attention. Okay? And apparently there's a lot of people in the country who still have no idea what Fox News does, and that's what Obama's trying to address through their latest campaign. All right, now, this isn't, okay, now news stories. Oh, by the way, Durbin, and that's the other story we did from the last segment. Durbin's saying, of course, that the unemployment numbers are terrible, and perhaps we should, in this midst of this great recession, extend unemployment a little bit more, and the Republicans are fighting against that. I'm actually in the middle on that. Of course, unemployment benefits are important. They're an important part of our safety net. On the other hand, we can't have unemployment benefits go on forever. So where you draw the line is a fair argument that between conservatives and liberals, and I think you could have fair disagreement on that. I don't think either side is necessarily demagoguing. So that's what I think of the Durbin clip. Okay, now let's get to new news. But it's also about polls. Fox News did a poll. Who do you blame for this current state of the economy? Who do you blame for the current state of the economy? Surprising results. Only 18% blame President Obama. 58% blame George W. Bush. Now, I don't find that surprising at all, because that's absolutely correct. But I'm surprised, one, because it's a Fox News poll, and two, despite all the media following Fox's lead and saying, "Oh, Obama, he's the one that spent all this money, and he's the one that hasn't brought down the unemployment numbers." La 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 la. Despite all of that, the American people are still like, no, it's definitely Bush's fault. He's the one that left him this mess. And those numbers haven't changed in the last couple of months very, very much. Only a couple of percentage points shift. Now, even among Republicans, Republicans, of course, blame Obama more than Bush, but that's only 35 to 29. So that's also very close. So no matter how much Fox News pushes and pushes, it's funny enough, in this case and in the case of the public option, the American people are like, no, okay, we've seen this movie before. I know who caused the mess. It was you guys. So that's a very encouraging poll. Funny enough, it comes from Fox News. Now, this poll is not from Fox News. It's from a conservative. But he's kind of a relatively minor character. But it gives you a sense of the kind of polls that they're pushing out there, right? Now, it's not an official Republican. I want to be clear about that. I don't mean by that I don't mean he's an elected representative. But he asked this question. Federal Communications Commission Chief Diversity Czar Mark Lloyd wants the FCC to force good white people in positions of power in the broadcast industry to step down to make room for more African Americans and gays to fill those positions. Do you agree or disagree that this presents a threat to free speech? Now, this got blasted out in an email to mainly conservatives, but obviously went to some others that weren't conservative, and that's how we found out about it. Now, look, again, I'm not pinning this on conservative media. I'm not pinning it on the Republicans. Part of the reason that I brought it up is the different polling that Democrats and Republicans do. My dad actually sent me a survey that the Democrats sent him, and you look at the questions, and yeah, they were biased a little bit, but overall, it's not very aggressive in how much they pushed that poll. We had done a story a couple weeks earlier on Republicans polling, and it's ridiculously biased and pushed. And we gave you all the examples. Do you think it's true that Barack Obama's destroying the country by his new spending? Questions like that. No, so it's partly to show you how they do the push polling. But the second reason I bring it up is because in one of the post games, we talked about how I went to a bar in Bakersfield. And there was a guy babbling about, Obama's taking away your free speech. I didn't know why. What has Obama pushed legislation, wise or otherwise, about taking away your free speech? Nothing, right? This is where he's getting it. They've got these email lists of, a lot of the conservatives and a lot of the Republicans in the country, and they do these email blasts. And so that schmuck in Bakersfield reads this and goes, "Oh, yeah, damn it, Obama's coming after my free speech." And he doesn't know how. I mean, he read it in an email where they said, is it true that he's going to force good white people in positions of power in the broadcast industry to step down and make room for more African Americans and gays, right? Is that true? Of course it's not true. It's not even remotely true. But that's how these talking points spread throughout the country. It's amazing, and we got to fight even harder because the old Mark Twain saying, and I'll paraphrase here because I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but a lie gets around the world before the truth can put its boots on. So that's what's happening here. with a lot of the propaganda that they're putting out there, or as Michelle Malkin would say, agitprop. So now, one last poll for you guys, because I like the polls. This is reported by Thomas Edsel in the Huffington Post, and there's a September 2009 survey by Peter Hart Associates, and they asked people, who do you think is benefiting from the government assistance during this economic crisis? And American people said 13% of the believed that the average Joe or Jill had been helped a lot or a fair amount. Only 13%, the average Joe has been helped. 65%, an overwhelming amount, said regular folks have gotten little or no assistance from the government, and 54% said that Wall Street investment companies had been helped, and 2/3 said the large banks had been taken care of. Well, of course, they're exactly right. Those numbers are correct, and American people have assessed it correctly. And this is the number one problem of Barack Obama's administration. And if the Republicans had any sense, and they weren't wholly owned subsidiaries of corporate America, this is what they would really press on. This is his Achilles heel. This is what he's doing wrong. They took all the money, starting in the Bush administration, but then followed by the Obama administration, and they gave it to the large banks. And it did not trickle down to us. So, I mean, if Geithner and Larry Summers, who are advising the president on this count, think they're so clever and that they've, tricked the American people into thinking, no, the banks didn't get the money, you got the money. Well, mission not accomplished. We know that we didn't get the money. Now, you want to know who got the money? We've talked about this a lot, but Thomas Edsel mentions it again in his Goldman Sachs article. I'm sorry, in his article about the survey, he mentions Goldman Sachs. They are standing to make, so far this year, a $20 billion profit. Remember, we gave them $10 billion in TARP money. As Dylan Ratigan explained on MSNBC, in a roundabout way through the FDIC and through other ways that we lent them money, we gave them $70 billion to use in this weak economy. And through AIG, we flat out gave them $13 billion of taxpayer money that they put in their pockets. That's a crime, what happened with the AIG. Okay, so they just took that money, some of which they got to invest, some of which they paid back, and some of which they just flat out kept. They made $20 billion in profits. But here's the amazing stat. You know that they have 31,700 employees at Goldman Sachs? It's a big company, right? Even with those numbers, 31,700 employees, if this was spread out evenly, which of course it won't, the top executives will take billions for themselves. If it was spread out evenly, every single employee would get a bonus this year at Goldman Sachs of $630,000. Now, do you think the government has helped every one of us equally? As a bonus this year, the year of this tremendous recession, they're going to get a bonus, each employee, on average, of $630,000. Where's your bonus? No, look, to be fair to the administration, they're going to say we had to prop up these banks so that the economy wouldn't collapse. If the economy had collapsed, you'd be in worse shape than you are now. And there are some economists, Brad DeLong among them, who says, yes, the recession would have been, in his estimate, 1.7 times worse, right? And so you would have larger unemployment, et cetera, et cetera. But if you were going to give all this money to the banks, and you weren't going to give it to the American people, and in fact, you were going to take the American people's money to give it to these banks, we could have, at the very least, had some say in how they run the banks, more regulation so that they don't create another disaster like they're about to, and a very fair point made in an article I read earlier this week that said, hey, how come we didn't get a taste of that? If you're going to make all that profit from the money that we lent you or gave you, how come we don't, the American taxpayer who lent you that money or gave you that money, how come we don't get a percentage of that profit? How come we don't get a percentage of your bonus? That's a great question. Warren Buffett invested in Goldman Sachs when they were down, like we did, the American taxpayer. Warren Buffett made $5 billion. How come the American taxpayer didn't make $5 billion? Because we gave the money to them, in essence, basically, for free. That's not technically a crime, but it is a crime against common sense, logic, and what should have been done in a democracy where the government is supposed to represent the people and not the top bankers. And now, there are a lot of things that I support the Obama administration on, but if they're wrong, they're wrong. And on this one, they're definitely wrong. I don't know why Obama has hired the two Democrats that are more responsible for this economic collapse than almost any Democrat in the country. Maybe Robert Rubin among those. But it's a terrible direction he's gone. All right. There's going to be a lot more where that came from. Trust me on that. All right, but let me go on to go back and hit some of the conservatives. Look, you want to talk about fair and balanced? That's what we do on this show. If Obama's wrong, we point it out. If the Republicans are wrong, we point it out. So now let's go over to the conservative side and let's have a little bit of fun. Okay? So let's go to Pat Robertson. He is aggrieved about the hate crimes bill that has been passed because it tries to stop hate crimes, and heaven forfend, we wouldn't want to try to stop that. Now, as I've said 100 times on the show, you can have legitimate disagreement about the hate crimes bill and whether it punishes free speech, and a lot of people have very good case against that and for that, etc. That's not the direction Pat Robertson has gone. Let's see what he has to say about it. Clip number 11.
The noose has tightened around the necks of Christians to keep them from speaking out on certain moral issues. And it all was embodied in something called the hate crimes bill that President Obama said it was a major victory for America. I'm not sure whether America was the beneficiary. Ladies and gentlemen, your vote counts. Who you vote for. We have voted into office a group of people who are opposed to many of the fundamental Christian beliefs of our nation. And they hold to radical ideology, and they're beginning to put people sharing their points of view into high office. And not only that, they now have control of both houses of Congress, and they can put through whatever they want to. And that's what's happening. They're really, at this point in time, those who are conservative, and they're pilloried as being right-wing, obscurantist, fundamentalist, so forth. There's so many names that have been given over the years, but the people who are standing for religious values, for the time-honored biblical values of our nation, are being hooted down, and these things, it's just one after another. It's just subtle, one after another, until the liberties we have enjoyed aren't there any longer.
That's so amazing that you might be thinking, no, well, he has to be talking about the opposite, right? No. What he's saying is the fact that Congress passed the hate crimes legislation, meaning that if you commit a hate crime against someone, that they're going to punish you for that. And if in the middle of the hate crime you say, you do it because you're motivated by their race, by their sex, by their sexual identity or gender, that's a crime, right? So he's saying that that's terrible, that in fact it is against religious values to punish hate crimes. I mean, you almost can't believe what he's saying. So because he says it's a time-honored religious value that we're trying to protect here. So what's that time-honored religious value? Kicking somebody's ass who's gay? I mean, seriously, I don't understand what you're saying. Being able to shout out, derogatory words towards homosexuals or whatever it might be in the middle of a physical assault, that's a time-honored Christian value, biblical value? I mean, you heard him say it with your own, ears there. You saw it with your own eyes. He says they're trying to paint his point of view as a radical ideology. What would you call it? And he began with, this is a noose around Christians' necks. Now, that's strong language. But you get the irony of it. This is named after Matthew Shepard and James Byrd. Matthew Shepard was hung on a fence and died there, okay? Not hung by his neck, but hung up to dry in a matter of speaking on the fence. And then James Byrd was dragged behind a truck because he was black. These people were killed on hate crimes. We say, hey, let's punish those hate crimes. And they say, oh, no, if you punish the hate crimes, you're hanging a noose around Christians' necks. I guess they assume that their audience is so oblivious, so ignorant, that they couldn't possibly understand what the truth is. So they say the exact opposite of the truth and hope that they get away with it. And it looks like Pat Robertson has made a lot of money doing exactly that for a long time. So maybe he's right to hoodwink his audience that way, at least for his own profit and gain. But if you listen to him, I feel sorry for you. You're getting the exact opposite of what's true. Now, speaking of that, let me do one Rush Limbaugh clip here in this segment. He's, I told you what Obama's doing wrong, in my opinion, in the financial world. And we've talked a lot about what he's doing right and wrong in healthcare reform. Rush has, you're going to be surprised to find out, a more black and white view of what should be done about healthcare reform. Clip number 14.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I hear that the Republicans in the House and Republicans in the Senate are going to offer an alternative healthcare plan next week. And with all due respect, it's a waste of time. Nobody is going to report their alternative plan. Reporting an alternative plan is accepting the premise. And that's where we go wrong. What everybody needs to focus on is stopping this. Nothing more, nothing less, just stop this.
Way to be constructive, Rush. We appreciate it. We don't alternative plan. What name so? He's like, hello, have you forgotten? We don't give a damn about healthcare reform. We're not going to do healthcare reform. We had 8 years to do healthcare reform. Of course we didn't do it because we're never going to do it. We like the way that our lobbyist friends that support Rush's program, the companies that do, and that support the Republican Party through the lobbyists, you like the current plan. They love the current status quo. Denying people because of pre-existing condition, booyah, make some more money, cha-ching. No, have you forgotten? Rush is here to remind you, we do nothing about healthcare reform. You'd have to be crazy to vote for these guys, crazy. I'm not saying you should vote for Democrats. God knows they got their problems. But to go with this alternative is madness. So we just let people keep robbing us day in, day out. On the financial stuff, you think the Republicans are on your side? They're the ones that did the bailout in the first place. That was Hank Paulson who helped his former company, Goldman Sachs. That was George Bush. They're the ones that created the crisis. They're the ones that paid the banks in the crisis. And if John McCain had won, right now the guy who was the most instrumental in creating it, even more than Larry Summers, was Phil Gramm. And he might have been Treasury Secretary. It would have been absolute looting season in America. The banks would have pilfered everything we had if John McCain had won. The Republican Party does nothing that the lobbyists don't pre-approve. All right, you know what? Before I leave you, I'm going to do one more random quote. We don't even know what it's about. It's from Rush, but I'm amused by it. Hell, let's do clip 13.
Unnamed White House sources is also the state-controlled AP. An unnamed White House source also hints that early next week the White House will announce that President Obama has created or saved 4.5 million pickup basketball games, many of them at midnight, since his immaculation. So, folks, it's time to get happy out there. Million new jobs created or saved. The recession's over. Wait.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, but I know this, okay? Obama, basketball, pickup basketball, Obama. What's that little boy up to these days? I don't know what program he's referring to, but I know why he's referring to that made-up program. Young Turks. Back on the Young Turks. In this segment, we are going to do the name game, and we're going to do Turk of the Week. We're going to get to that in a little bit. If you'd like to call in on that, 323-866-8201. And I'll tell you, I think this week's is really easy. The pop culture one might be a slight monkey wrench, but it's really not much. So a fairly easy edition of the name game. 323-866-8201. We will play that in just a little bit with you guys in this segment. Meanwhile, let me give you a couple more stories that I love from the week. On Tuesday, Harry Reid introduced a resolution honoring, quote, National Hispanic Media Week. And that apparently was October 25th to October 31st. Now, I'm on the record as not being in favor of these nonsense resolutions. Not because I don't like the Hispanic media. They're lovely. Okay? But who cares if Congress says you're lovely or not? I mean, congratulations, National Hispanic Media. You get a week all to yourself. I don't know. I don't know why anybody cares, right? But that's not the point of this story. The point is Harry Reid went out and tried to find a Republican co-sponsor because they want to do something that's bipartisan, right? And we could at least agree to this. It doesn't harm anyone. All it says is, all right, great, congratulations, Hispanic media. Okay, so what, right? Couldn't find a single Republican co-sponsor. Oh, no, you're doing great with Hispanics in the country. Why don't you go ahead and alienate them a little further? Now, this is unbelievable. Now, if you're thinking, hey, wait, maybe the Republicans think like you, Cenk, and they think this is all nonsense and they don't do these kind of things, you'd be wrong. Earlier in the month, Republicans and Democrats joined hands from North Carolina. There are two senators, Richard Burr, who's a Republican, and Kay Hagan, who's a Democrat, to pass a resolution congratulating, quote, the High Point furniture market on the occasion of its 100th anniversary as a leader in home furnishing. So they do this nonsense all the time on both sides, okay? So why didn't they sign on to the Hispanic Media Celebration Week? Because they're going to catch heat from it, from the conservative hosts. We're going to say, oh, this is what they're doing now. They're joining league with the Hispanic media. I mean, we did a Lou Dobbs clip earlier where he was talking about all these guys at La Raza and Geraldo Rivera. I mean, I don't know. It's mental. I mean, this is the easiest thing in the world to get, at least say, hey, look, you know what? We're in favor of Hispanic media. Not a single Republican would co-sponsor that bill. The party is headed straight to extinction.
Well, it's one of two things. It's either that or they're afraid that the scoreboard's going to go up again. As I was saying before, I think it's a football game. It's Team Republican versus Team Democrat. And they're like, well, wait a second. We can't sign on to anything, even if the most meaningless, simplest thing we can possibly sign on to. That's going to go on the scoreboard, and that counts against us. Who cares about America? Wait, this is our team we're talking about. We're trying to get some Super Bowl rings here.
And you might be right. Maybe the other reason that they're denying this is because they don't want to give the Democrats a single vote on anything. All right, look, enjoy, okay? I mean, if that's your strategy, it's a terrible political strategy. I shouldn't even try to talk you out of it. Go ahead, run straight into that wall. See how that feels. All right, so, all right, I'll save these for after the name game. We ready for the name game? Who's on the line, Jay?
Ashley from Georgia has come to take over, she said.
Oh, wow. Okay, Ashley, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just watching your show on the internet.
All right, that's awesome. Have you listened to the show long or no?
I have. My boyfriend got me interested, and I listen to it when I jog and at the gym. I love it.
Oh, who doesn't love Ashley? Okay. Now, Ashley, let me explain to the people at home and to you just in case as well how the name game is played. I'm going to give you I'm going to describe 5 names that have been in the news this week, and you got to tell me who those names are in under a minute, okay?
Okay.
All right. So you're ready. JR is ready. So let's do it. He's the Connecticut senator who said that he might join Republicans in a filibuster.
Joe Lieberman.
She is the Secretary of State who spoke very tough in Pakistan this week.
Hillary Clinton.
He is the Senate Majority Leader who put the public option in health care reform package in the Senate.
Harry Reid.
He is used to date Sarah Palin's daughter and now says that Sarah Palin called her child a retarded baby.
Levi Johnson.
And he said that race car driver Montoya should go grab a taco. He's a commentator for ABC, and he got in some trouble for this.
Oh, gosh. I can't remember.
Okay, his last name is the same as Oily, dirty, oily, swarthy. His first name is like, what about?
Bob.
Oily. What's the same as Oily?
Greasy?
You got it.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yes, there you go. Bob Greasy. JR, what was this?
I didn't know she said greasy. I was about to hit it with the buzz, man.
She got it in like
58 seconds.
58 seconds. That's awesome. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And I gave you the clue a little wrong. He didn't say he should go grab a taco. His announcer said, "Where is Montoya?" And he said, probably out getting a taco. But, okay, you got it. So it was Bob Greasy, Levi Johnson, Harry Reid, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Lieberman.
That's awesome. Oh, my gosh, I'm going to be so excited to get a shirt.
All right, Ashley, you win the most comfortable T-shirt in the world, a Young Turks T-shirt. Stay on the line, and Dave's going to get that for you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Okay. JR? I thought you wanted to jump in.
Oh, no.
No, okay, all right. That was nicely done by Ashley. I like that she pieced it together. God, that was heart-pounding. Nice addition of the name game. The nick of time. All right, now let's do the Turk of the Week. I mentioned this guy, of course, yesterday because I found out that he had passed away yesterday. But this is Lex Picks. He is a guy who was on our site for a long, long time on theyoungturks.com. Anybody new who came in, he would shepherd them through. He would have great debates and discussions, and always a helping hand. And his real name is Lex Mroki, and he was actually in Australia, lived in Australia, listened to the show through the web, and he was actually a staff photographer for Australian Jewish News, and just beloved by the Young Turks community. Everybody loved him, and he was a great guy. He died young at the age of 45, and he's no longer with us. But for all of his help, for all the people who ever came to the website and met Lex and received a helping hand from him, we couldn't appreciate it more, and we wish he was around, of course, for us to have given him this when he was with us. And Lex, we love you, and we appreciate all that you did for the Young Turks, and of course our thoughts are with your family. All right, now back to the news, and we've got some news on the public option, but before we do that, a couple of interesting stories from the Republican side. There's a story out of the Washington Independent that conservatives are laughing at Newt Gingrich's presidential aspirations because he's said, oh, I'm interested in 2012. Not that he's definitely running, but he's considering running, which of course is no news to anyone. When he said that, I didn't even cover it because I was like, of course. Tim Pawlenty, who's also considering running in 2012, made some waves as to possibly running. It's the least surprising news in the world. Now, I think the Washington Independent, honestly, after I read the article, didn't get it quite right. There was one Republican or conservative, I think he was a Tea Party guy, who chuckled at the idea of Newt Gingrich running. But that's not fair to say that all Republicans are laughing at Newt Gingrich. But what does become clear from the quotes in the article is that they simply believe, the base of the party, and he talked to, and the guy who wrote it is David Weigel, he talked to a number of elected Republicans throughout the country and then some conservative activists. They think that Newt Gingrich is not conservative enough. Now, I mean, imagine what this country has come to. In the 1990s, Newt Gingrich was just about the most conservative guy in the country. Since then, he's gone further right. He's gotten more conservative. And he is not conservative enough for the current Republican Party, where they think that he does not really have a realistic chance of running in 2012 and capturing the conservative base that you need in the primaries. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. And the media has missed this gigantic story. It's not right versus left. It's that this Republican Party has gone so far to the right that it's taking everything off balance. This is not a rational party. This is a party that's going to do great damage to itself. It already has. Look at what happened in 06 and 08. They got wiped off the map. There's 60 senators on the Democratic caucus. I mean, you're missing what's happening to the Republican Party. It's disappearing right before our very eyes. If they think Newt Gingrich is too liberal, they have no prayer of winning national elections. I mean, of course, something disastrous could happen economically or otherwise, and presidential elections are personality-based, et cetera, et cetera. I understand all that. But in the long run, if you have a party that is so radical that they think Newt Gingrich is too liberal, that's a party that is in a world of trouble. That's so far off to the right that they've forgotten what mainstream Americans actually believe. And the media has bought into it. So they think, well, all right, somewhere between the Democrats and the Republicans is the middle of the country. Somewhere between the Democrats and these lunatic Republicans is something that's pretty close to lunatic anyway. Okay? I mean, it's halfway to insanity. And right now the media believes that's why they're surprised. That's why I give you the polls. Every time there's a new poll out like that supports the public option, The media is like flummoxed by it. They're like, how could that possibly be? Well, that's the case because the country is not where you think it is. And it's certainly not where the Republican Party thinks it is. And I think that over the next 2, 4, 6 years, they're going to have a very, very rude awakening. They've already had their rude awakening, and it's only going to continue and get worse. All right. Now, give you one more joke about the Republicans. Sarah Palin was thinking of speaking at a Republican event in Iowa. She told them what her speaking fee is, and now that's caused a bit of a controversy. She asked for $100,000. Now, you have to understand something. The context of Iowa is that, of course, since it's the first caucus in the presidential elections, everybody goes and speaks for free. I mean, they're honored to speak for free in front of the people of Iowa. Now, you might say that's absurd and that's not the way the system should be, but that is how it is. So all of the presidential contenders are happy to get invitations and go and speak for free. Now, the thing is, what they don't get is that Sarah Palin ain't running for president. Sarah Palin's looking to cash in. She's looking for money wherever it is. She's like, oh, you want me to speak in Iowa? $100,000. That'll do it for you. So now some of the Republicans in Iowa are disillusioned with Sarah. They didn't think this was the way she was going to go. And they say, well, should we pay? Should we not pay? And, it's a little outrageous. And they think that they might have figured out that she's in it for the money. You don't say. Huh. Well, the good Republicans of Iowa, if you were listening to the Young Turks on the day that she quit, that's exactly what you would have found out a long, long time ago. Of course she quit for the money, Lebowski. That's why she's asking for $100,000 from you. And I hope you don't do it, because right now they're still debating it. Half of them saying yes, half of them saying no. You're going to collect all the money you got in this recession, and you're going to hand it over to her? All right, if you want to be that stupid, have at it, Hoss. I got no problems with that. You want to waste your money? Fantastic. All right, now on to the public option real quick. Joe Lieberman. What do I do with Joe Lieberman? Okay, so a couple of quick things. One, in 2006, when he was up for re-election, he wasn't saying the same things he is today about health care reform. He thought it was absolutely critical. I want to play that clip for you real quick. It is clip number 2. Do I have time for that? And you know what? Actually, before I play you that clip, let me tell you the other part of it. In 1994, he said that the worst thing in Washington was, you're going to love this part, filibuster. He said that is what ails Washington. Let me give you a quote here. This is even more important than the clip. Joe Lieberman said in 94, along with Tom Harkin, this is his quote, "People are fed up, frustrated, and fed up and angry about the way in which our government does not work, about the way in which we come down here and get into a lot of political games and seem to partisan tugs of war and forget why we're here, which is to serve the American people. And I think the filibuster has become not only in reality an obstacle to accomplishment here, but it is also a symbol of a lot of what ails Washington today." So apparently Joe Lieberman hated the filibuster earlier in his career. Now all of a sudden he's doing exactly what ails Washington. Now here's what he had to say about health care reform when he was trying to trick you into voting for him in 2006.
And what I'm saying to the people of Connecticut, I can do more for you and your families to get something done to make health care affordable, to get universal health insurance. I've been working on health insurance reform for more than a dozen years. I have offered a comprehensive program, small business health insurance reform, something I call Medikids, to cover all the children in America on a sliding fee basis up to the age of 25. MetaChoice, to allow anybody in our country to buy into a national health insurance pool like the health insurance that we federal employees and members of Congress have. Medical malpractice reform. It will cover 95% of those who are not covered now, and it will reduce the pressure on rising costs for all the millions of others who are covered.
When he was running for re-election, he was champion of health care reform. He told Don Imus, we shouldn't, forget the public option, we shouldn't even do health care reform now. One last quote for you. But I do want to say, this is Joe Lieberman in 94, but I do want to say that Republicans were not the only perpetrators of the filibuster gridlock. There were occasions when Democrats did it as well. And the long and short of it is that the abuse of the filibuster was bipartisan, and so its demise should be bipartisan as well. and now he leads the charge in a Republican filibuster. Nicely done, Joe. We appreciate the easy hypocrisy that you've given us. Young Turks.